Hello there, Lean Lifers. How are we doing? It is Thursday. It is the 28th of February, and we are coming at you with this live to talk all about pregnancy. So we're talking about pre-pregnancy nutrition, during your pregnancy nutrition, and post-pregnancy nutrition. And you might think this one is just for the ladies. And clearly, the ladies out there that are mothers, just been mothers, soon to be mothers, planning to be mothers, will all get some benefit from this. Plus, dudes, this is your opportunity, my friends. This is your opportunity to earn brownie points. Do not skip past this gem of a training podcast or video or wherever it is you're consuming this piece of content, because this has benefit. You can earn a super amount of brownie points when you impress your other half that you know all of this stuff that's going to really help them through this either 9-month process or post 9-month process, wherever they are in that pregnancy timeline. You're going to be able to drop some knowledge bombs that really help them out. You're going to get back in those good books, because let's face it, you're the one that did this to them. You're the one that made them go down this painful journey, this traumatic 9-month experience, not to mention the actual birth itself. This is all your fault. So now's the time for you to earn some brownie points. And your good old friend Simon is going to really help you out here and pull you back on track, because we have some nutrition strategies for you that are actually just going to revolutionize the pregnancy process. Because good nutrition is a real fundamental part of pregnancy. Now, the first 1,000 days of a pregnancy are super, super important, and nutrition plays a key role in that. So if you think about the first 1,000 days being the point from conception through to your child's second birthday, that whole period, you can really optimize that nutrition. You can dictate potentially how that child is going to be later in life, and how well and well adapted that child's going to be later in life, and all of that sort of good stuff. So really important you get that nutrition right for that first 1,000 days. Now, looking at some of the statistics, easy for me to say, 68% of women when surveyed said that their midwife or their GP didn't give them any advice at all when it came to nutrition. So when you think about those first 1,000 days being super important, to get for 68% of people going through that, to get no advice whatsoever, is quite hard to believe. So that's why I thought it was a good podcast to do, because there's lots of couples looking to be parents, to become parents, and want to look after their child in the best way possible. So this is my sort of like public service to produce this little bit of training for you. Now, what I want to do is straight away deal with the biggest myth of all, and that is, during pregnancy, are you eating for two? The answer to that is no. Sorry, ladies. The fact that you're pregnant does not give you carte blanche to go and eat whatever you want because you're eating for two, or whatever quantities you want. Of course you can, but it's not maybe necessary, nor is it maybe optimal for your own health and being able to get back to your body weight when you come back to that post-pregnancy period. So actually, in the first 1 to 6 months, there's 0 calorie difference required. So if your maintenance calories was, let's say, 2,000, in the first 6 months of your pregnancy, you do not need to increase above 2,000 calories at all. So you're definitely not eating for two in that first 6-month period. When it then comes to months 6 through to 9, your calorie requirement only goes up by 200 calories a day. So it's not a huge amount. Like, if you think about what 200 calories is, it's maybe a couple of medium-sized bananas, a couple of pieces of fruit, a handful of almonds or something like that. 200 calories is really not a huge amount of calories that you have to think about eating. So this whole concept of eating for two and just like having like 2 dinners, 2 lunches, 2 breakfasts and all that sort of stuff, it's really a bit of an old wives' tale, a bit of a myth. Like I said before, first 6 months, no difference in energy required above your normal maintenance level. And then 6 months through to 9 months, only a 200 calorie increase for most people. Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule, but that's the broad guideline I think that you would want to follow on that. So now let's start to break down what happens before, what happens during, and what happens post-pregnancy. So obviously let's do it sequentially, and let's look at what happens before. So when you're thinking about becoming pregnant, maybe you're kind of planning, doing all that family planning stuff and all that good stuff, it's really, you're looking at a healthy, balanced diet. That's kind of really, sounds boring, but that is what you're trying to do. You're trying to get yourself to a healthy weight, because if you're at a healthy weight, then you reduce the risks of your own issues during that pregnancy process, things like gestational diabetes and things like that. You're reducing those risks. The healthier you are, the lower sort of BMI that you have if you're overweight, then bringing that down by a reasonable amount before you get pregnant is going to be beneficial to you and that course of that pregnancy being optimal. So you want to be aiming for around about 18.5 to 24.9. So you're kind of like going 18.5 to 25 on the BMI scale is going to be fairly optimal for you to aim for. So if you're kind of within that range already, you're about right. Just focus on healthy, nutritious foods. But then you might say, well, Simon, what do you mean by healthy, nutritious diet? Well, we're talking really about all the good things like fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, a little bit of meat if you want meat, animal products if you want animal products. If you're a vegetarian, obviously, you're not going to do that. But you want to make sure you've got adequate. Now I'm reading this because I want to make sure that I cover everything super, super well. So we've got adequate iron, iodine, calcium, folic acid, vitamin D. Now, you might say, well, where do I get all that food, that stuff from? So really, you're really going to have to probably supplement with folic acid. And supplementing with folic acid is going to be around 400 micrograms pre-pregnancy and during the first 12 weeks. And that's going to reduce some potential complications with pregnancy that you might, and issues with the baby that you might have. So you want to have that. Now, I'm also going to say, you probably want to have dairy. Now, all of the vegans are probably going to jump on my back saying, why are you saying you've got to have dairy? Surely you can get, all these things from other ingredients. Well, iodine is basically responsible for 50% of brain development in a baby. And you're going to get a lot of that from basically animal-related products to do with calcium, things like that. So milk, cheese, whatever. And then the calcium as well is important, because if you are deficient in calcium when you are pregnant, then that calcium is taken from your bones to basically feed the baby if there's a deficiency. So you need to make sure that these things are at optimal levels. Of course, you can get calcium from non-animal-based products, but it just means you're going to have to really focus on your nutrition more to make sure that you're not deficient, make sure that you are getting it. It takes you closely monitoring your nutrition to make sure you're getting to the right levels, I would say. Also, you want to look at vitamin D, so 10 micrograms-ish of vitamin D, and that's just going to basically protect your musculoskeletal health. Now, that's basically what you want to be doing before pregnancy. So it's really all about focusing on getting to a healthy weight, maintaining a nutritious diet, and getting all the vitamins and minerals that you need. So that's kind of creating this environment for you to start pregnancy from a really strong position in terms of health. So then when you move into your during pregnancy, obviously we mentioned folic acid. You want to continue that for the first 12 weeks. You're probably looking at vitamin D supplementing throughout, probably even for most people supplementing all the time with vitamin D, probably because in most people that's going to be deficient. Now, during pregnancy, it's really about maybe things to avoid. So you've got your soft cheeses. You're probably going to want to avoid your liver, swordfish. I don't know who's eating fucking swordfish, but if you are posh enough to be eating swordfish, maybe not when you're pregnant. Pate, raw and uncooked meat should also be avoided. Now, that to me is that's a posh person's way of eating. Like, I can just see someone eating the soft cheeses like the brie and having it with liver and pate and the swordfish. I usually have the swordfish for lunch, and then the raw and uncooked meat seems like a posh person's recipe, a posh person's dinner plate. But hey, I might be doing some people have some misservice here. But anyway, avoid those. Things you might want to moderate. Now, oily fish is one you might want to moderate. Now, I might think, well, okay, omega-3s are supposed to be amazing, and they are, but you want to keep this down to about 2 portions of omega-3, so 2 portions of oily fish, should I say, per week, because Basically, we just want to minimize things that could potentially cause you some problems during pregnancy. Also, caffeine you want to reduce. Sadly, it's going to mean the espressos and all of the lattes at lunch with the ladies are going to have to be a little bit closely monitored, around to about 200 milligrams per day, because you could potentially be running risk of miscarriage and a low baby weight. And it's the same with alcohol. So you want to really kind of either avoid or at least limit your alcohol intake. Probably 1 or 2 units, 1 to 2 times per week is going to be where you need to be. So there are also like a bunch of foods that are okay. So like things like mayonnaise and things like that, which maybe people have perceptions of being things that you should avoid, are not necessarily the case. As long as it's not got uncooked, raw sort of like egg and uncooked ingredients in it, you're probably going to be okay and it shouldn't really be an issue. Now, during pregnancy, one thing you should definitely not do is diet. So ladies, if you are contemplating going into a calorie deficit whilst pregnant, please do not do that. It is not the opportune moment to be thinking about fat loss, to be thinking about your own weight. It's about making sure that you're having an optimal pregnancy, that this is really running smoothly as possible. Now, that may then cause you to think about, well, what about the flip side of that? It's like, I don't want to gain like a huge amount of weight, and how much weight should I be gaining, and how do I judge if I'm gaining too much or whatever? Now, obviously we said like in the first 6 months, you're not really going to change your energy expenditure. And then in the latter 3 months, you're going to increase it potentially by 200 calories or so. Now, your actual weight gain can be very, very individual. It's going to vary wildly from person to person. And it's really, your body fat element of that is small. There's so many other things going on, like the actual weight of the baby itself, plus all of the other things that are going on, all the changes that are going on in your body, really are going to be what contributes more to any weight changes that you have, not necessarily body fat. Body fat is going to be a small amount, especially if you're not really overdoing it on the calories. So it's really about understanding you as an individual, and this is going to maybe be in conjunction with your doctor, making sure that you've got things on track and everything's running as per normal, and that they're happy with the progress that you're making and they're happy with the way that you are. So it's going to be a bit of a, not necessarily, I wouldn't say trial and error, because that would be a bad use of terminology, but it is going to be very individual, and you are going to have to, there's no sort of one statement that you can say. It would be every female should gain X amount of weight during a pregnancy. It's just not going to work like that. But the key thing is just focus on nutrition. So all of those things that I've just mentioned, and making sure that you've got a highly nutritious diet, is really going to be all the component parts that you need to be thinking about, and just doing the right things on a consistent basis. So then you might be saying, well, okay, what happens post-pregnancy? Because I understand that, you know, when you've gone through that pregnancy process and maybe you're really keen to get the weight off as quickly as possible that you've put on, is that, you know, how quickly can you do that? How aggressively should you do that? And how should you start to manage it? Particularly if you're breastfeeding as well. How does all of that sort of manifest itself? So firstly, breastfeeding is a good thing, and you've got to take that into consideration when you're looking at how many calories you're going to consume. Because to breastfeed is going to not cost you, again, I'm using bad terminology here, but breastfeeding is basically going to use about 625 calories per day. So you have to factor that into your calorie intake for the day. And therefore, you can still lose weight while you are breastfeeding. You can lose weight post-pregnancy, that's absolutely fine. But you want to make sure it's just not too quick, not too rapid. This is going to be a gradual process that you want to do in a healthy, positive way. So you really want to aim for 0.5 to 1 kilo of body weight loss per week. Anything more than that, and you're dieting too aggressively, and you're maybe not doing it in an optimal and sustainable way. So you really need to think about that, and you need to set your timeline accordingly. Understand that it's going to be a gradual process. You're not going to be able to flick a switch and your weight disappears overnight. It's a gradual process, but if you do it gradually and you kind of do it properly, then you're going to see better, more sustainable, long-term results. Plus, you know, when you then start breastfeeding and things like that, you're not going to have any issues or complications there. Now, in terms of training, So you might say, well, okay, I want to jump back in the gym as quickly as possible. Definitely probably don't want to do that straight away. You're probably going to have a 6 to 8 week check with your doctor or midwife or whatever. And only after you've got the all clear from that 6 to 8 week check should you then think about going back in and doing maybe some of your resistance training and your weight training and things like that, if that's what you were doing before, or whether you were doing cardio, running, all that sort of stuff. So make sure you get that 6 week to 8 week check done in the bag, you get the all clear, good to go. Now, if you've had no issues with your pregnancy, no complications, no surgery or anything like that, then you can do like pelvic floor exercises and those sort of much more lighter exercises and things like that pretty much straight away. But definitely don't go into the heavy stuff, the more exertion-based efforts until you've had that 6 to 8 week check. So basically that's kind of, oh, one more thing, alcohol and caffeine. I want to talk about alcohol and caffeine post-pregnancy. So in terms of alcohol and caffeine, if you're breastfeeding, just bear in mind that that can make it through your breast milk into the baby. So potentially, so you need to really think about how much alcohol you're having and how much caffeine you're having, and then also think about a gap between when you have it and then when you breastfeed. So you just got to bear all of those things in mind. But that is essentially our run through of pre, during, and post-pregnancy nutrition. So kind of the key highlights that maybe take away, again, boys, hopefully you've made it to this part of the training. You haven't kind of disappeared yet, because let's face it, if you are 50% of this process, so therefore, by God, you should take some interest in the nutrition of your good lady as well. So hopefully, ladies, you found it interesting as well and found it useful. So the key things, the big myth about eating for two, absolute bollocks. Only in the last 3 months of your pregnancy do you need to up your caloric intake. Pre-pregnancy, really focus on getting to a healthy weight, that sort of 18.5 to sort of 24.9-ish BMI. Get yourself in that healthy range. Focus on those vitamins and minerals that I mentioned, optimizing your folic acid, optimizing your vitamin D, looking at iodine and calcium, iron, all those sorts of things, making sure they're at optimal levels. During your pregnancy, just watch the foods that you need to avoid completely, and then moderate those that you can have, but you maybe don't want to have too much, especially around alcohol and caffeine and things like that. Then when we're talking about your actual post-pregnancy, yes, you can lose weight. 0.5 to 1 kilo per week is absolutely fine. Just make sure you're factoring in the extra 625 calories you need to support breastfeeding. Other than that, you should be good to go. Enjoy your pregnancy. Enjoy your lovely little human that comes into this world. And of course, because you've got so much value out of this, you got to call him Simon. Surely, come on. So yes, so if any of you ladies are out there about to have a baby, struggling for a name, that took some information from this podcast, if it's really, really valuable, then go forth. Name your son Simon. I will be proud of you. So that's all from me. Now, if you do want some support with your nutrition, whether you are pregnant at the moment, you maybe want to optimize your nutrition, maybe you want some support getting back to a healthy weight, maybe you want some support getting back into the gym, then feel free to come and have a chat with me. You can go to my online coaching page, which is ironparadisefitness.com/online-coaching. I'll put a link to that in the notes section as well. You can also come and visit me on Instagram, which is @iron_paradise_fitness. Drop me a DM, come and talk to me, and we will have a chat about how I can help you optimize your nutrition. Likewise, guys, if your good lady is pregnant and you still just want to get jacked, then you can come talk to me too, of course. But until then, all I will say now is keep living the lean life, and I'll see you on the next episode of this show.